Oh, yes. Sorry, I thought you were
Peter.
a question for Clare. With the membership model, you've got lots of different organisations. So do you have a mechanism for resolving disputes with respect to different types of metadata and how, what rules should apply in particular circumstances?
If the metadata that the institution wants to use can be mapped onto the mandatory headings within DRI, then there's plenty of flexibility. It's generally easier if the institution is able to use a standard for which we've already written guidelines, and most of the main ones we have guidelines for now. We will need to update the EAD one because EAD 3 has come out. So far that's been fairly straightforward. Most of the time, most institutions will either have metadata already, or if they're preparing it, they kind of want to do it as kind of in a fairly simple, straightforward way. So when we were developing our UI, the headings were kind of intended to roughly map onto most existing mandatory metadata headings as they exist. With kind of they're similar enough to Dublin Core, but I wouldn't say that, like, it wouldn't be accurate to say they're an exact map because obviously they're quite flexible as well. So yeah, so far it's all been smooth sailing.
Thanks very much.
Okay, we have another question here.
So my question is for Julia and Jane. I was really interested to hear what you're doing with the GIS data in our services in UCD. And I apologise, I was a couple of minutes late, so you may have said this. I'm interested in how much of the skills around support for GIS you already had. I know you were talking about workshops for library staff to develop them, but I didn't know how much you started out from. Did somebody already have an interest in this, or was that developed from scratch?
Well, absolutely zero was where I started from.
Well done.
I did have experience with using maps because I was based in the architecture library where there was a big map collection. So I knew what a latitude and a longitude was and stuff like that from paper maps, but I didn't have any GIS experience whatsoever. So what I did was I was able to get onto a GIS module in UCD. So I did that for a semester, and then I looked at YouTube videos and read books and looked at other libraries. A lot of Canadian libraries have GIS tutorials and PDFs and stuff like that. So, and then I went on Esri, and Esri are the makers of ArcGIS, and they run GIS workshops in Dublin and other places. So I attended a few of those as well. So I, certainly at one stage I thought I'll never be able to do this. This is really difficult and complicated. But then eventually I got to the point where I had learned enough that I felt I knew more than the people in the class, and I was I started from zero. So it's definitely doable, and wasn't a technical person at all. So, other than using Word documents and standard spreadsheets and stuff like that. So if I could do it, I really think anybody could learn it, probably even faster. Thanks.
Have we any more questions? Oh, we've just one here. Yeah. Rosaria.
Hi, question for Audrey. Audrey, are you at any point in the future planning to have kind of crowdsourcing of the transcriptions?
Yes, we'd love to open them up. As I said, this is a pilot project. The Nano Nagle letters literally went in last week, so talk about to the wire. But it's working really well, and we had some test ones in, and we noticed other people were transcribing them. So we have a couple of collections that we'd love to get help with. They're ledger-based ones, so a lot of structured data in them, and there's a huge amount of genealogy data locked within them, and we'd love to be able to get people to help transcribe them and get them out there.
Okay, have we any more questions? I actually just have one myself, Julia and Jane, in relation to the services you've developed on Geospatial, just in terms of what other disciplines you've reached outside of geography. I was just fascinated and how you went about that. Yeah.
Well, we're still working on that because we would like to get more of the humanities involved and to try and show them the benefits of using GIS. So what we try and do is people come to the workshops, we try and gather information about where they've come from so that we can talk to the academics about embedding GIS in their modules. It is quite slow to get started, and it is difficult to explain the benefits of GIS because it is very much based in geography and archaeology, those kind of topics. So hopefully one of our initiatives is to have this map exhibition next year, and we'll hope a lot of people will see that and understand that GIS can be used in the humanities. I mean, we did have a good example where it was used in history for a coastal landscape project about how people felt about the coast, and to try and map that in GIS. Sounds a bit difficult to explain, but and the other way you can map it is, people have used maps to show places in poems and stuff like that. So trying to get that across, and hopefully with this exhibition we're going to try and get maps from the humanities and from history and from folklore. And we certainly have people in folklore who've used the maps to do things like show places in Ireland where certain types of prayers were said. There was a kind of a north-south divide with one prayer that a person in folklore wanted to map, and that was quite interesting when it came to be shown on the map. So we're going to get some of those, put them in the exhibition, and hopefully ignite more interest around the college when they see those maps.
Okay. Any more questions before we close this session? Okay, so before formally closing the session, I'd just like to thank all our wonderful speakers this afternoon. So, well done.